Hey, good morning, everybody. How are you guys doing? Let's see how we're doing. Let's see, we got good audio check over here. Yep, we got it. We got it. We got it. We're good. We're good. Zero that out. Hope everybody had a great weekend. Time to get back to it, man. Get back to the grind. All right, let's jump into this thing. Get it going. All right, today is day 20. What is it? Today 23. 23, man. 23 out of 30. We're on the home stretch. Today we're going to talk about what are you watching? What are you watching? And this challenge is can be done in a couple of different ways because you can talk about uh, a video that you're watching that you're doing from an educational point of view, or that's encouraging you, or something that you're doing for an educational, or it could be something just you're doing for enjoyment. Um, so just talk about it. Or you can go find some other people that you're binge watching something with. It could be just pure entertainment stuff. From TV. It could be anything. It could really be anything. And it's a good way to take anything from a business point of view, from a sports point of view, just socially. And it's a good way to where you can just truly just blend the lines and be playful with it and just have fun with it and just gets that conversation going. And it's just a fun way to have fun and just see what other people say. And you'll be impressed. And uh um turn that off over here. Um, there we go. You'll be impressed in just how people just jump into a conversation on stuff like that. And especially when you get new followers that are following you and how they'll just chime into the conversation. And it helps people get to know you. And it's something that we all need help with. And, all of our friends know who we are. And we all struggle with putting more of our personal information out there so the new followers get to know who we are and become more relatable and start to figure out, okay, all right, they're like me, they like this show, or they follow that, or they're like they're a dog person, they're a cat person, or they're whatever. It just becomes more relatable. And that's the whole purpose of all this, is just to tear down that business facade and that wall and let them understand, the inside, and just, get to know us a little bit more. That's really all it's about. Excuse me. These temperature changes, man. Warm, cold, and all the sinuses, man. Ugh. All right. Or then, if another thing you could do with it is, if you're out attending a training, if you're out attending a training or a summit or something, post, oh my gosh, man, I'm learning this right here. This is what I'm doing today. Check this out. Stand up, take a post, or during a break, take a post and say, man, this is what we're doing. Or take a picture of your notes and say, oh, you got to check this out. You got to attend this next time it's in town, or next time it's close. You need to go attend this, blah, 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 blah. You just talk about what you're doing. Yeah. I want to go back to, John Maxwell. We talked about that on, I think it was Saturday, and how successful people think, and changing your thinking, and how it can change your life, and creative thinking and stuff like that. And, how to remove creative killers. And creative killers is that negative little demon. We always grew up, in our parents or somebody said you got the little negative guy on the one shoulder, little positive guy on the right shoulder. And you got to get rid of that little negative thought, that pessimistic thought that just keeps on creeping up in your mind and telling you can't do it, or you shouldn't do it, or why you can't do it, or you'll fail, or all that stuff. You just got to kick it to the curb. And some of the ones that they list in the book is like, I'm not a creative person. So if you're thinking there and you're like in your mind, oh, I'm not a marketing person, so I can't come up with marketing stuff. So that's that I'm not a creative person piece. Well, that's not true. Maybe you're not 100% a marketing person, but you have ideas and maybe you just need some help, putting the ideas down on paper or, getting them to come to fruition and how to translate it onto a piece of paper or out onto the internet or what have you. But you've got a component of it and you just need help getting it delivered and distributed. So, to say you're not a creative person, that's not true. And then following the rules, is not like, speed limit or, breaking and entering or something like that. But following the rules of saying it's been done this way, for the last 20 years. Well, doesn't mean it has to be done that way for the next 20 years. If you find a new way of doing something, break the mold. There's nothing wrong with breaking the mold and finding a new, better way of doing it. If there's a way that works better for you, do it. You don't have to follow a specific way. Just make sure it works so you're not wasting your time. But don't just follow aimlessly like blind sheep. But if you've got a better way of doing it, do it. And don't ask questions. You should always be asking questions. Always ask questions. It goes back to everyone heard in school, grade school, high school. The question it was, I can't remember how was that it was phrased, but the dumbest question or the worst question was a question that wasn't asked, something along those lines. Ask questions. If you have a question, ask it. Dare to be different. Don't be afraid to be different. Different is sometimes really, really good. That differentiating factor to stand out, to distinguish yourself. That's what everybody is trying to do. Just don't be afraid. And a lot of times people are too concerned with being going with the flow or fitting in and afraid to stand out and being their own person. And sometimes when it comes to our side of business, you need to be that pink flamingo or you need to be that pink elephant in the room, I should say, not the pink flamingo, that pink elephant in the room that just stands out, but in a good way. You want to stand out. And then, the other couple other ones, let's see what's on the list here. Let's see. It can't be done. It's too much work. We don't have enough time. Those are all typical excuses. We don't have enough money. Yes, but, that's a typical one. Yes, but you acknowledge it can be done, or you acknowledge you need to, or whatever, but you're already like, nah, we can't do it. Yes, but we're all guilty of that. There's only one way. There's never just one way. There's always another way to do something. You just got to find a way to do it. Don't be foolish. That's somebody talking you out of it. Don't be foolish. You can't do that. No, find somebody else to talk to about it. Think of your image. Somebody doesn't have a bright enough or broad enough field of view or understanding of what you're trying to accomplish and can't see the end goal of what you're seeing. You need to go talk to somebody else. It's not practical, or you need to be practical. Again, whoever you're talking to doesn't understand the scope of what you're trying to do or doesn't understand what you're trying to accomplish. And some of the stuff, if someone's not in the industry, they just won't get it. They can't grasp it. And in fairness, it's the same for us when we're talking to people about other industries. We can't necessarily grasp what they're talking about when they're talking some of their industry lingo. So don't take it personally if someone doesn't understand what you're talking about. You just need to talk to somebody who can talk your language and can understand and relate to what you're talking about and can be a good, honest sounding board to, what you're saying and give you true, relatable opinions and feedback to what you need to hear, and can be honest with that feedback. Um, let's see. It didn't work for them. That's another one. It didn't work for them. Well, maybe they didn't apply it right. Maybe they didn't approach it right. Maybe they didn't prepare for it correctly. There's a lot of reasons why people fail, and there's a lot of very, very, very successful people that have all failed. Everybody's failed. Everybody's failed at something that they've tried. Everything has been a failure until you get it right. So just because it didn't work for them the first time doesn't mean you don't go back and try it again. So just because it didn't work for them doesn't mean you shouldn't try. We cannot afford to make mistakes. Another common one. It's never been done before. Where have we heard that? There's a lot of things that are invented that has never been done before, or they said you can't accomplish this, or you can't do this in a given month, or you can't do this in a certain time frame. You can always do whatever you want. You set your mind to it, you can make it happen. It's all in preparing and getting prepared for it, setting out a plan of action to do it, and making it happen, executing your plan. Too hard to administer. Planning. It's just having a team in place and planning for it. Previous failure is final. No, if you failed before, you just need to try again. All these people that just try once and they think that's it. Okay, I tried it before and I failed. I'm a failure. I can't do it again. No. Michael Jordan, how many times did he fail? Tons of times. Edison, Graham Bell. All these great inventors, they failed multiple times and then they finally got it right. Failure is just part of the process. You got to accept that and understand it. It's okay. You're just working towards the end goal of getting it right. And when you don't take it as a personal attack, or you're imperfect, we're all imperfect. You're just working towards the end goal, and you just know that particular approach wasn't the right way to do it. So you go back and do it again. It's no big deal. It is no big deal. So we have to eliminate the creativity killers, people. Creativity killers will just eat us up inside and will just zap our energy and talk us out of doing so many things. And if we let it happen, it'll take away all of our desires to go out and do great things and be great things, and not talk to our people, not deliver on a video, not do a video at all, not even bust out the phone and even start a video because we can't do it. Don't psych yourself out. Don't listen to somebody else because you can do it. All right. So eliminate the creativity killers. And then on the flip side of that is you've got to create more creativity. You've got to ask questions about that spark more creativity. It's like we were talking the other day when somebody asks, an uncreative mind can spot a wrong answer, but it takes a creative mind to spot that wrong answer. So an uncreative mind can spot the wrong answer, but it takes it's an uncreative mind that can spot the wrong answer, but it takes a creative mind to ask the right questions to identify what's really going on. So when a client asks or a client states, well, they're not going to do something, or, hey, it's just a bad time to do it. It's a bad time to buy a house. It's a bad time to get into the market. It's, rates are too high or whatever. Dig in further, instead of just stating that. Why? So why do you think it's a bad time? dig in further. Keep digging until you get to the root cause of the problem. And is it an affordability issue? Do they not have the down payment? Maybe do not have the credit to qualify at the certain situations. Did they have a change with their job? There's a deeper problem. There's a deeper issue on why they're just saying they can't do it right now. So dig deeper and figure out what's going on. And then you'll get to the root cause of the problem. And a lot of people just take the initial answer at face value and they leave it as is, but there's a deeper issue, and you've got to dig deeper to understand what's going on. And if you dig deeper, then you can either overcome the issue or the challenge, or at least you understand it better once you get to the root cause, and then maybe you can help them resolve that problem sooner than later. So dig deeper and help alleviate those problems. And then how to create creative thinking is ask questions like, why must it be done this way? Why do we always do it this way? Maybe there's a different way to do it. We always do this process this way every time, no questions asked. Okay. Is there a quicker, easier, better way of doing it? Right now, can you bring in a piece of technology? Is there a tool that you can use to streamline the process? Is there a way that you can automate the process? Like with videos, is there an email or something you send out to a client each and every time that, or is there a message or a conversation you have with a client that you could turn into an email, or you could turn into a video that is automated so that it frees up your time? So is there a better way of doing something? And then next one on the list is actually the root problem, which goes back to what we were just saying. What's the root problem? What's causing the problem? Can we go back and identify what's the actual problem so that the problem ceases to exist? Because if you just Band-Aid fix what you think's on the surface is causing the problem and it continues to happen, you're not fixing the problem. So dig deeper and find out what the problem is. What's the underlying issue is the next one on the list, and it's basically the same thing there. What does this remind me of? What does this remind me of? And you just kind of, that can take you in all sorts of directions. And if you sit there and think about it, what does this situation remind me of? And you can think about from a work related point of view, personal related point of view, just anything, and you can just kind of take that and just really just think about that in so many different ways, and how a situation reminds you of other situations, and how you can take and bring in other experiences to help resolve the situation you're in now. So it's basically taking your blinders off. Instead of looking at this situation right now, what does this situation remind me of? And look at it from a whole 360-degree perspective, but from all sorts of different angles, and see if you can come up with a solution that way. And then what's the opposite? What's the opposite of your situation? Flipping your scenario and coming at it from a completely different angle to see if that'll help you come up with your solution. A lot of times when I'm, stuck on something, I can almost like walk myself back and then come right back at it and play it back in my head. And I was like, what did I miss? Or just like go right back down the path. And it's like, oh, there it is. And that's how I find the missing piece or remember what I forgot. So, and then another one is, what's a metaphor or symbol that helps explain it? Sometimes that helps people. If there's a symbol or a metaphor that will help you trigger and help explain something, to help get the juices flowing in, and just get you to where you can just get to a point where you can help find a better solution or come up with some more creativity to make that situation better, or put a better solution together for that situation. I mean, there's all sorts of different ways of doing it, but it's whatever works for you. But you just got to find a better way to be more creative, and to get out of the normal rut, get out of that normal pattern, and do something that's different. And that way it's not the same pattern. And then you become, everything becomes a little bit more unique, a different touch, a different experience, and it's not the same thing. And has that creative touch coming from you. Let's see what else. Why is this important? That's another good question to ask to have more creativity. Why is this important? Why do we do, why do we do it this way? Must it be done this way? Why is it important? And when you start asking questions like that, why is it important? Why must, excuse me, why must it be done this way? That'll take you in so many different directions and spark your creativity and give you a different way to approach your subject and answer your question effectively. What's the hardest or most expensive way to do this? So if you're looking at a project or a marketing event or whatever it might be, if you're looking at it from a cost point of view, now that's one way you can answer it. It's just a different way to address the same issue. Who has a different perspective on this? So if you're sitting here planning an event, or you're working on a presentation, or let's say you're going to make a presentation on listing a house, and who would have a different perspective on whatever that project is or whatever that piece of property is? Think about it from their point of view. How would they perceive what you're saying? And if you've got, let's say you've got a seller and they've got an attorney or whatever. I'm just trying to come up with something off the top of my head. How would they perceive what you're saying? If everything's going to go through the attorney and you've got a great relationship with the seller, but ultimately the attorney is going to be the person that makes the decision, how are they going to perceive what you're saying? So make sure or think that out, and that way how your delivery is going to come across. So it's not necessarily so geared toward that, maybe that personal relationship you have with the seller, but it's more, let's say, neutral with the emotion pulled back, and it's more of a business conversation that's geared really towards anybody and does not have that emotional influence that you have with that emotional connection with that seller. And it's just a more of a black and white conversation that can go and be applicable to anybody. And that perception of how this is going to be perceived is going to come off more, it's going to be perceived better without the emotional influence that you have with that bond you have with the seller. So just take a step back, and how is my message going to be perceived? And if you're in that situation where you've got that emotional connection, maybe you need to take a step back, remove that emotional bond, and make it more of a black and white communication, and make sure your message is going to be perceived in that manner and is going to come across in that manner. So just, how's my message going to be perceived? And then last one on the list is, what happens if we don't do it? What happens if we don't do this? And what's the repercussions if we don't? Videos, marketing. What if we don't get our message out? People call somebody else. You lose your clients. They go somewhere else. I mean, it's just that simple. If you're not getting your message out, you're losing so many opportunities. That's why we do what we do. I mean, that one's a very simple one. So you've got to get away from the creativity killers. You got to get away from that negative mindset. You got to get away of, I can't do it. We shouldn't do it. Hey, they did it before and they failed, or, I watched them do it and, they do so much more volume than me and they weren't successful with it. Doesn't mean you can't do it. Doesn't mean you can't do it. Maybe they didn't prepare for it properly. Maybe they didn't have the right pieces in place. Maybe they didn't approach it the right way. There's a lot of reasons why. And then be more creative. Ask creative questions. Think about things in a more creative manner and execute on that. Okay. All right. And then on tech-wise, what we want to talk to on real quick, 755. I want to touch on just a little. I know all you guys are doing a little bit of Chat GPT stuff. So I want to give you guys these. I'm going to put these out in the group. Where is, there we go. All right. Well, if these will cooperate, there we go. So when you're doing a prompt to get a much more specific response back, if you're not already doing it, you need to, and you need to tell ChatGPT who you are, what the task is, and the format you're looking for the material in. So if I'm a lender and I'm writing a blog or whatever, and it's I'm writing a headline or an entry, or not entry, but an introduction or whatever, and it's for a presentation or a summary, whatever. And then from there, I can tell it, you can get into even more into like this right here. Oh, excuse me. You can explain it out like this and how it actually spells it out. But if you use this specific format in explaining it, what you're asking for, you're going to get a much more specific response back. And then this is giving you more of an example of like that. So just try using this and do things differently. This is basically just a cheat sheet, dumbed down version of it, if you will. But this is one way of doing it, but this is a much more specific way of doing it that's going to give you a very, very specific answer based on your specific question you're looking for. And if it doesn't give you the answer you're looking for, then try rephrase, asking it to rephrase, not rewrite. Ask it to rephrase that. And rephrase, I don't understand the logic. I don't know why that's different, but rephrasing it for some odd reason works better than asking it to rewrite. The regenerate button obviously also works, but rephrasing it for some odd reason seems to get better results. May just work on the stuff I use when I'm working with it, but try rephrase and see if it works for you. So that's all I got for you guys today. Hope you guys have a great one, and we'll get with you guys tomorrow. See you guys.